Good evening, everyone. Well, it's evening in Paris, but probably not in every part of the world. So wherever you are, good evening. And I'm happy you could join this new live session for our leadership experience. Um, the idea again here is to share your questions and to discuss on the basis of your questions in the process of the capstone. Um, for now, I'm waiting for the next questions to come up. I have seen in the discussion forums that many of you are debating over challenges that are very interesting and very entrepreneurial. Indeed, we have found that there are many links between leadership and entrepreneurship. And in today's environment, being an entrepreneur is part of taking the responsibility to create value and build new businesses. So I understand that your challenges can be linked to this question of entrepreneurship. And as some of you put it in the discussion forum, the idea of bringing people together, starting a new adventure, is actually something that I have experienced or that I am experiencing in developing Savoir itself as a startup company. So I'm very interested and curious and eager to get your next questions as you are evolving in the process of the capstone. Your questions, again, can be more technical in terms of how to proceed step by step in resolving your leadership challenge. Again, your challenge can be personal, based on a personal issue, or it can be corporate, in which case you rely on the different options that we offered in the capstone, meaning choosing between BlaBlaCar as a company, or Orange, or Poilane. Please, when you ask a question, make sure, or when you put something on the forum, on the discussion forum for this live session, that you specify which challenge you have chosen, if it's personal or if it's corporate, and if it's corporate, which company that you have chosen. So we can be more specific in helping you answering and addressing your questions. I'll be pausing for a short moment until I get the first questions from you, so I can address your questions directly. Please forward your questions to us, and I look forward to being with you. I know some of you had a hard time getting the link. I just posted it thanks to HEC support. The YouTube link for you to join the session, and I hope all of you managed to get it in time to join, but I will make sure that everybody gets enough time to access the Hangout session. And I want to take this introduction opportunity to thank Parth, who is with us in getting the questions together and forwarding them to me via the chat that we have on the Hangout, and to Ashraf, who is our backup with HEC for the media and technical issue. There, we have received some statistics about the capstone, and there are over 300 of you participating right now. So it's a big number. It's an increasing number, and very interestingly, also for the overall specialization, there are now over 55,000 participants involved in the Savoir Relier approach. So this is quite exciting to see not only the volume, but also the quality of people who are joining and embarking on this personal and professional development for your leadership skills. And I'm really happy to receive your feedback and your comments on how this experience has helped you in developing your leadership skills in many different ways and in many different settings. So wherever you are in the world, and by the way, there are 192 countries represented in the overall specialization. So this is very impressive. So wherever you are in the world, I'm happy to be with you today. The different companies that are involved One of them is Poilane, and there are several of you who have chosen the capstone working with Poilane. And one question around the Poilane company is how do you get older employees to be interested in innovation and expansion? And I think this is a very relevant question because we know that there are gaps in generations, and what's going on right now in with the millennial and all the digital evolution or revolution, depending on how you see it, um, creates a gap between older generations and younger generations. The question of innovation today is a very interesting and fast forward moving dynamic that sometimes older people have a hard time catching up to. At the same time, what I feel is that older generations, I would say almost like me, since I'm 54, I can be considered as more in the senior category, have an experience and a look on the new digital evolution, uh, which should help question and put the right questions in place. And in my experience and working with more senior people, uh, what is very interesting is to see how this digitalization and the importance of the digital environment we're in, how it makes a necessity for the human dimension to be even more and probably uh, much developed in a much better way. So the notion of innovation should not be sequenced or fragmented between generations, the younger and the older. And it should be a mindset of being open, and innovation can be driven by older people as long as their minds are very open. And I have many examples around me of very senior people and people I've worked with. To name one, Theodore Zeldin, who is a British historian and philosopher who's over his 80s now. He's a very innovative person and thinking really forwardly in terms of inventing new ways of working, new ways of interacting, which shows that you can be of older generation and be in innovation. So innovation is more mindset than a question of age or generation, and is something that you need to develop. Um, I have another question from one of you from India, wanting to know about the human nature. So I'll read the question. I want to know that we are all human beings. We have to face many hard situations in our life. My question is, when we face any mental trouble due to circumstances, how can we face it? This is a very different line of question from the previous one, and it touches on resilience. I'm sure you remember the work we've done with the Savoir Relier, the third step of the protocol, which is based on developing your resilience and understanding your resilience mechanisms. Yes, indeed, we are all facing difficult moments in our lives. There are moments that actually build us as human beings, and our capacity to overcome, surpass, and face those that adversity, those problems or challenges, is how we build ourselves. So the question of resilience is a very important one in developing your leadership skill, and it's something that when you work on it, you really realize that to be more resilient, one, you need to be able to take a step back from the situation, to acknowledge the situation, to share the situation with others, to accept that you need others and that you can rely on others. And those elements are key in terms of understanding the situation you're in. And then it's very important, that's the next part of the relational circuit. Once you've explored and understood and made sense of your situation, even if it's a very difficult one, like a black swan, the next move is to project. So the next phase is the projection phase, and to look ahead and to look at how you can rebuild something and build sense for yourself and for people around you. so that second phase is the one that will get you out of the difficult situation. Um, I have another question from someone in the US, in Aspen, Colorado. So hello, and thank you for your question. The question is the following. I'm conducting the personal challenge. The exploration phase reveals many questions to address. How do we sift through data to best reach the core issue? The question of data is a difficult one and a very difficult task, and it's a very important, every step is actually very important. The perception, the holistic perception, the data, the sense making, all of that, everything is very important. But the data itself is a must. It's something that you really need to focus on and be very specific to dig into reality, dig into very specific elements, as many as possible, that can come from many different perspectives, very importantly, not from the same background or the same people, but to get feedback, to get human feedback, to get quantitative data, qualitative data, and mix all of the information and data that you can bring to a problem, be it benchmark, be it comparing different companies that are in the same sector, looking at the market, looking at all of the stakeholders that are involved around your challenge, so that you can, once you have all of them, by the relational assimilation, you start building the sense. It's like a mind mapping thing when you put all of the ideas in a brainstorm way, so it's not ordered, it's not structured, and then you start making the links and making sense of the data you've put together. The more the merrier, and for the data. So the data analysis needs to go in all directions, even if you seem lost at some point. The thing that is very important is that you need to stop at, and that's why we give you about a week for every step, and the data analysis has to stop because it could be an endless phase. So you need to spend energy and time to find as much data as you can, but once you reach the end, you need to really stop and put it together to make sense of it. So the timing is very important, and you need to respect that. Our next question is on the Orange challenge, or Orange, the company as a challenge. The question is as follows. Delivering the wow in customer service as it relates to the management to embrace, please, is it possible to explain? The wow experience is something that can be perceived as subjective, and I think this dimension is very important. With the phrasing of Orange themselves, when they put the challenge on the table, is to give customers an unmatched customer experience. So unmatched is something that you can define as, I have never experienced anything that big before. Now, how it translates can vary very much depending on country, depending on culture, depending on people. And that's where you need to dig, because an unmatched customer experience is something that is revealing, sparkling, something very new. Of course, if it's unmatched, it's by nature very new, and it's very strong. So the impact that it has on people is very strong. So look more on the side of the impact on people than on the what this wow effect can be, and then start analyzing in different contexts and maybe mapping in different contexts what this wow can be. When we did the first capstone, the first session of the capstone in the leadership certificate, some brainstorm was around exactly this question. What is a wow for you? How can you define a wow for another person? So it's a personal and subjective issue that can have different impacts in different cultures. That's a key in terms of understanding not only the question, but then addressing it and meeting the challenge. So I hope this helps for the question on Orange and the wow customer experience. Now, how can you deliver to answer this unmatched customer experience? That's for you to find, because that's your challenge. And I'm definitely not going to give you any answer, because as in many of the actions in the Savoir Relier experience, there is no real right or wrong, or it's not good or bad. There are many different perspectives and ways to address the question. It's in the way you bring your value and the way you bring input that is constructive and positive, that you will have and possibly make an impact on the company itself. So good luck with this. And I'm moving on to the next question, which is again about Poilâne, and looking at the second step, so the data analysis. We've been advised to use the SWOT, and it's true that's an option that we've given in terms of analyzing the data using a SWOT analysis. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats is a good way to address the data analysis, but it's not the only way. There are many different ways. We just mentioned this one because it's a very common and well-known way of addressing data or understanding data. Your question is, I feel it is too early to use a SWOT because it obliges you to structure your thoughts and make sense out of them. For step 3, maybe. This is a very good point. I was talking about sequencing, and we did have this discussion with my colleagues when we worked on the creation of the capstone, whether or not we would make suggestions as using the SWOT for the data analysis. And I said earlier, just a few minutes ago, that the data analysis was also a brainstorm. So there are different steps in the data analysis. The first step is definitely going broad and all directions, but soon enough you need to start structuring, because you can brainstorm forever, and that's definitely not what you want. You need to move forward. So at some point you need to start structuring. The making sense itself for me is more the mind mapping, putting the relationships, whereas the SWOT is more the categorizing. So in the SWOT you have 4 categories. In the mind mapping, you build links between what is a strength, what is a weakness, what is a threat, what is an opportunity maybe, and you start bridging in a different way. So that's why I still believe that the SWOT is a way of structuring your data once you've done the brainstorm. So first brainstorm all of the data, then start structuring, and then mind map, create the links that make sense between your data. Those are the 3 processes that I think can work for you. But that was a very good question. All right, our next question. I'll read it as it is. So my name is Daniel. Your name is Daniel, and you're from Spain. So hola, ¿qué tal? I don't know where in Spain you are, but happy to have someone. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but just a little bit. My project is about the Orange Challenge. My question is about the current situation as a manager at Orange. I have not enough information about their preparation against change. So that's how do you get more information? I'm not sure I understand it really well, your question. If Daniel, if you can rephrase a little bit, it will help, because I don't want to answer on the wrong way or to miss your point. If you can rephrase a little bit your question or be more specific, it will help me. I'll put it on the side for now and wait for you, Daniel, to get back to me and be a bit clearer about your question. The next question I have is, once we have found a solution to corporate leadership challenge, how to reduce the execution gap? Well, it's an interesting approach. For me, there is no solution to a challenge that does not include execution. So the execution gap, it's like making a decision and not assuming the consequences of your decision. So it's very important that, and a very important point that you're making here, between the challenge itself, the way you understand the challenge, and the execution. So let's say you're giving your recommendations to the company you've chosen, and they are just words, they're ideas. There could be a strategy, business plan. Now, what are you going to do with it? It's very important, and in the savoir-relier approach, it's extremely important to consider the action part inside your solution. What I mean is that to advocate a solution, to promote an idea, needs to be backed, supported with enough evidence that people can the next day have an actionable item on your idea. This is why in the capstone, you're asked to be very realistic and very specific in, for example, giving the narration of one day at the company to make sure that you have understood culture, values, ways of working, ways of living inside the company from a behavioral point of view. Because business is not about ideas. It's not just about strategy. It's about execution. So reducing the gap is your responsibility in the recommendations you're making. And if they're not realistic or feasible, or they haven't taken into account the reality of the company and the environment, the market around the company, the ecosystem that supports the organization, then it's not viable. So this will be definitely taken into account when it comes to assess, evaluate the quality of your recommendations, and what the companies are looking for, or what you are looking for when you're doing a personal challenge, is to make your recommendations viable, realistic enough that they can be implemented, whatever they are. If you were to advise on the development of Savoir-Relier as a company, I would ask you to give me specific items that if I were to act upon them, it would work. So that's how far you need to think to reduce that gap. And it is your responsibility as much as that of the company, because you are working on your leadership skills when you're doing the capstone. So I'm putting that responsibility in your hands. I hope this is not too much, and I trust that you can do it. The next question is, and I'll just read it as it is: when people do politics behind your back, interpret your words in a very different way, intentionally, to damage your position or reputation, and no one trusts you, then how can you control that situation? The question of politics in organizations, in life, actually, it's true in personal life as well, but in companies is a real is a reality. It's not one that we're hiding or not facing in the Savoir-Relier. And very importantly, you remember the 3G, genuine, generous, and generative. It's very important that you set limits to how much you can say and how much you can share and how generous you can be in the way you interact with people. Now, when people start or have an agenda that is a political agenda that doesn't go along with you, of course, it creates conflicts. And what I have found in my research and analysis of the reasons behind these situations is the vast majority of the time a question of bad quality relationships. In other words, and turning it positively, when people are not capable of speaking their mind, of being more transparent, of sharing what's happening in their lives, it creates and it grows the politics even further. So it's very important that you learn to be more open and more transparent to a certain point. And that certain point is a question of knowing others and understanding others and how they function. Because there are things that you can say and that you can share with some people that you would not share with other people, including in the way you interact, or you even try to support or direct or drive others. The notion of understanding and the amount of knowledge, of quality knowledge that you have of a person will be a very a major factor in the capacity that people have to respect one another in moving forward beyond politics. Um, I'm not pretending that Savoir Relier will eradicate politics in organizations, because they will always be there. What I'm seeing is that when you instill a more open-minded, a more transparent, a more genuine uh, mindset in the organization, where people are more giving, where people are more caring, and it's true of every work that's done around relational coordination, for example, that includes building a common sense of purpose, building shared goals, then the question of politics does not vanish. It will never vanish, but it really is reduced to a minimum and allows performance to thrive again. So that's my answer to the question of trust and the question of politics in companies. The next question is about, again, building trust in your staff. And this question is further explained by one of you. So I'll read what you said. If you aren't there, people will steal from you, from the profits, and you will lose your money and your investment. That's what a conservative person would say. And so the question is, how do you build trust in your staff when you want to expand? Um, Building trust is something that takes a lot of energy. It also is something that goes back to what I was just saying as to the quality relationships. And to grow those quality relationships, what you need to accept, and I can share a personal experience here, that sometimes you will bring innovation and not receive credit for it, and that's no big deal. Um, it has happened in my career, where I was in a position of leadership and I was bringing value uh, to my job and to my surrounding, and that somebody else in the hierarchy would take credit for it. And for me, that wasn't a problem, because what mattered was that the positive results were there, and that the collective impact on the overall organization, not just me as a person, but as part of an organization, was extremely positive. And this dynamic, so it's a form of you grow your self-esteem beyond being recognized, and you don't need to be recognized, because it's the benefit of all that serves you as a person. And it's a form of altruism, maybe, that if other people need to get the credit for this, so be it. That's fine. If the result is positive and it will bring, and I will take credit, personal credit and value from it, then that's just fine. So building trust is a key element in growing your organization towards collective performance and collective results. Who gets the credit is not so much an issue, particularly in the Savoir Relier mindset. So we're back to the question from Danielle, and I'll read it again. My question is, whether is it possible to propose a change management and training as part of the Orange Challenge, or as part of the Orange Challenge? Okay, I get it. And team managers are sufficiently prepared and aligned. Okay, we all know about communication gap or generation gap. Leadership can meet communication gap when older people don't know anything and don't want to learn from you. How can you meet this situation? Okay, the gap. Okay, there are two different questions. All right, the first question is about can you propose a change in management? I'm not sure what you mean by change in management. Is it change in your suggestion would be to change the CEO of the organization? I don't think that you'd have a lot of power on this, and again, for me, an organization does not rely solely on the CEO. So I don't know exactly what you mean, but let's assume that if you say management and training, can you make an evolution in management and training for Orange? Yes, indeed. Orange is a company that is putting questions on the table, and that's a very good sign, by the way. Um, what you're doing in the Savoir Relier for introspection, asking questions and facing questions that will help you be more self-aware, applies to organizations exactly the same way. So companies that are capable of asking questions about themselves are companies that are ready to grow. If they're ready to grow, they've made the first step, and that's part of their resilience towards change. So change involves very difficult steps. And those difficult steps include possibly change in through training and change in management. So a very important milestone in an organization is how their training environment is structured, and how they are capable of having more and more of their managers and leaders go through programs that help them go through the questions and evolve. So my answer, to cut it short, is to say yes, there can be a change in management and training. If you think of innovation in management, then I'm sure you'll have a lot of ideas in terms of what can be done to improve the gap between the younger generations and the older generations as for the digital learning. And I can tell you that they've already started in this avenue at Orange, and they have developed a lot of programs. So you can go online and go on the Orange campus data and try to uh, get as much information as possible on this. But they are definitely trying to help uh, narrow the digital gap. And this was part of your second question: generation gap, digital gap, which is one thing I have thought about a lot. And actually, I think Savoir Relier could help, by the way, the methodology. Because if you were to organize conversations between people in the company that are of older generations, not so savvy in the or so experienced in the digital world, by doing conversations and by simply interacting in a quality way with millennials, for example, just that would help them understand in a much better way how the minds of those younger generations work, and probably adapt more easily to the way digital natives function. Um, so I've been thinking about this and trying to push in that direction whenever I can. But I think that training and management can develop new ways of interacting, which in turn can help generations work together in a better way and a more effective way, particularly older generations and digital natives. I hope this helped you, Daniel, and thank you again for your questions. I hope you have a good time in Spain. Our next question is the following. Through this question, so this question may not be directly relevant. Okay, we'll see. Mm, Can we get any job depending upon the specialization certificate of this course? If yes, then where? Can you give us any idea about this? Okay, it is a relevant question, and the answer is no, in the sense that the Savoir Relier leadership specialization is not meant to get you a job. Um, However, because the Savoir Relier leadership specialization helps you build trust, self-awareness, confidence, and grows your leadership skills, at least that's what we observe in the feedback that you are giving us. And this is very helpful, by the way, on the Coursera platform, or you can also do that on the Savoir Relier website. Any feedback that you can give us is definitely helpful in moving that forward. So the answer is this leadership specialization should, if that's your case, help you get a new job. Um, getting a new job is a very thorough process that involves self-questioning, that involves your capacity to know where you stand, who you are, what you need. So to really grow this self-awareness, then to analyze, and by the way, we're using here, as you probably can guess, again, the relational circuit, then to analyze the market of all the potential options that you have in terms of organizations, thinking of places, thinking of all of the elements of your environment. So that's the data analysis. Then you want to make sense of who you are and the market. And of course, then you need to project into what is that next company or that next environment or that next place, because it's also geographical, where I want to be, work and live. And so using the relational circuit to get your next job is definitely a way to secure the choices that you're going to make. And I definitely advise that you apply the same methodology to finding your next job. And I think I'm saying on the one hand that the specialization is not there to get you a job. In other words, if behind your question, and I may be reading completely wrong, but let's say if behind your question there is, if I'm doing the capstone on BlaBlaCar, will I get a job at BlaBlaCar? The answer is no. And we have not connected with those companies because they were offering jobs. That's not the point. You're not doing the specialization to get a job at any of those companies. And by the way, most of you are actually choosing the personal challenge, which means that you are working on yourself first, and then the world is open. So do not reduce your choice to the 3 companies that we have had involved in the capstone, and go way beyond this. Do the digging, do the analysis, do the mind mapping, do the sense making exercise, and project yourself into the future so you can get yourself started on the next move and get your career going. So that's my best advice. Use relational circuits, savoir-relier approach, everything that you've learned to find your next job. And again, it's your responsibility to do that and to move forward. I want to say one more thing that I started talking about that is very, very important to us and to me in particular. When you do the capstone, as every course in the specialization, you have an option at the end to give feedback. Your feedback, your testimonies, what we call learner stories, are spontaneous, and they give us a lot of information about where you're coming from and where you're heading, and what is the impact of this experience that you had in the leadership specialization, the impact it has on your life and on your leadership, or simply on your career. Give us more feedback, because we need it, and it's really data that we can use to help more people like you and others to benefit from this experience. So thanks again from that feedback. We can organize more of this discussion and feedback forums beyond the end of the capstone if you want more time to think about it and give us feedback. Okay, thank you again for your questions. What's the next one? It's a feedback, it's not a question. People are showing their gratitude that this specialization helped them learn a lot about themselves, and they learn a lot. It helped me build my self-confidence a lot. Well, thank you. That's yet another message along those lines. And if I may insist on one point, I am interested in knowing exactly, or more specifically, and you know how much detailed oriented I am now. So if you can tell us in what ways. So if you're saying it helped me build my self-confidence a lot. Okay, great. Can you give me a couple of examples where it shows, where you were not so self-confident and now you're more self-confident, and therefore you have accomplished this, and give examples, specific examples of the ways that this specialization has brought that self-confidence, that self-awareness, and that self-confidence that has applied to this particular setting, situation, moment, event, whatever it is that you are involved in that is showing this. And again, this is very important because in the research that I'm conducting with the Savoir Relier, I'd like to be able to show and to demonstrate that the impact is not just words, but it's facts. And it's facts means it means that you have increased by, I don't know, 20% the number of clients that you have convinced to buy something if it's a product, or you have friends that you could not talk to and now you're talking to them, and then you've rebuilt a friendship. Okay, there are hundreds of examples that you have. What I'm saying is, please give us details, give us more feedback. And if we get back to you on, let's say you have given us a more general feedback, like you have grown your self-confidence, and we ask you, can you tell us in what ways? We really would like to hear your stories and work on this. I'm currently developing my research in this area and writing articles about the data. So the more I get qualitative and of course quantitative, the better informed we will be, and the more we will be able to push forward with the Savoir Relier approach as a positive, having a positive impact on people's growth, which is a very important thing, of course. There is no more question at this time. We have another about 15 minutes to go. So let's pause for for a short moment until we get our next question. In the meantime, I really want to thank all of you for participating and being involved in this, also on the Facebook group. Okay, and so some of you are actually now sharing online and through the channel some of your examples, which I can share with you, like making a final decision that you were pushing off and that you ended up really making your decision, taking more constructive decisions more easily. One of you being shy and being able to overcome your shyness and achieve some of your goals. Um, uh, okay, one question: where are we to send our feedback? There is a place. It's very difficult for me to answer, actually. Maybe Ashraf can help. But I do get the. There's one section for admin when you're a professor and you've run a course on Coursera on the platform, where I get the learner story. So I think you have in the discussion forum, there's a place at the end where you have some form where you can fill feedback, and it becomes data for me because I can read the learner stories. Some of you write a very short thank you. Some of you are more detailed as to where you're coming from, what is your story and storyline, like where you come from, what's your job, and what is it that you have achieved. One of you is asking to be part of my research. Well, if you contribute by giving feedback, you become part of my research. I unfortunately don't hire because I don't have the means to hire full-time people as of now. But you should know that just by giving feedback, you are participating in my research. Part of the research involves also doing analysis on the self-portraits when people accept to release the self-portraits. And I'm also working on developing the platform to expand and give more opportunities. So that's underway. That's work in progress. It takes a lot of time, a lot of energy. The savarolier.com platform is a place where you did only the self-portrait conversation. It has potential to bring more. It's again work in progress. So stay in touch. You have our coordinates, our contact. You have my email address. I mean, this is all available. So the feedback, to answer very specifically, is on Coursera. The more detailed, the better. We keep that feedback secure, and we have your contact. If you're willing to go further and give us more, then definitely stay in touch. Give us your coordinates, and we'll get back to you. There is, if the question about the conditions is salary or so on, it's pro bono, because there is for now, as I said, I'm not organized to be able to recruit people, so it's really as assistance through feedback. Um, in the end of the course, Coursera can ask to review, or they can go directly to rate the course and tell their story. This is not a question, but a tip to give your feedback. Okay, yeah, to be more specific as to how the platform on Coursera works, you can always give feedback at the end of a course, for every course on Coursera. And it's not because you're having the capstone that it's over. I mean, that you cannot give feedback anymore. At the end of the capstone, also you'll be able to give feedback. So definitely, please do that. Um, the question, there's one comment that's made about the notion of self-awareness, which I have, of course, that it's the first step of the Savoir-Relier protocol, and it's the first necessary step if you want to get anywhere, is to ask yourself questions and build your self-awareness. If you don't know yourself, you cannot pretend to know anyone else. So start with yourself, and then you'll know others better. And at the same time, it's part of the paradox, is that to know yourself better, you need others. You need the mirror image that you get from others. That's why the conversation part, the second step of the protocol, is also so important. That external guidance can simply be the mirror that people send you back by exchanging with you, exchanging their self-portraits, and being in a dialogue with you that is genuine, that is open, that is not judgmental, that helps you unveil and open up and understand things about yourself. So that two steps, those two steps, one, the self-portrait, two, the conversations, are key to getting started in that process, and then moving forward with the resilience, and then becoming more responsible as a human being, in charge of your own destiny and your own future and that of others, through influence and through leadership. So thank you for the sharing. It's been very, very helpful. And I'm getting another question or comment from one of you who's saying that, I'm quoting, I am a, of course, you're going to hear that it's not me. I am a millennial digital entrepreneur applying SR leadership to bridge the gap with younger generations. It is helping greatly. Well, thank you, because this is a very good example of how the Savoir-Relier mindset can help get closer between people who are not necessarily on the same wavelength in the beginning. Um, the ultimate vision that we have with Savoir-Relier is to bridge gaps, and to bridge gaps across conflicts. So to be able to overcome difficult situations or misunderstandings or conflicts through a better quality relationship and a better respect and understanding. Um, and of course, there are limits to that. But if you do the work of knowing better where you come from and accepting others for who they are, with all the limits that this has in it. And by the way, if you read there is a chapter in every at every step of the genuine, generous, and generative process where I lengthily speak about what it means to be too genuine or too generous or too generative, and that it's very important that you take that into account and you understand your limitations so that you don't go overboard. Um, there's one question about more involvement after this session. The we planned two live sessions, so there will not be another live session until the end of the second capstone. And it doesn't mean that the whole thing ends right here. I really encourage you to be still present with the Facebook page, which is public and ongoing. I told you earlier in the statistics that there are 55 or 60,000 participants in the specialization. So it's an ongoing, growing community, and that hopefully the Savoir Relier platform will develop along those lines and help that community thrive. So the Facebook page is definitely there for you to keep on interacting. Please do not use the Facebook page for publicity or adverts or whatever you want to promote, because that's not the place and that's not the point. The point of the Facebook page is to have you interact in around questions and issues that you may have. So we keep in touch and we keep building this community until we find a better, suitable and more suitable environment that is more structured, that can help you get together and maybe build some things beyond what you have started in the specialization. So stay connected with the Facebook page, and we will do our best within the next six months probably to prolong this through a more structured environment on the savoirrelier.com platform. I have another question. In case of culture difference, what should I do? How can we tackle the situation? That's a very vague and broad question. Culture is a huge, huge topic. I used to teach a course at MIT Sloan School of Management called Leadership Beyond Cultures. Because cultures play a part and a role in everything we do. But they're not an end in itself or in themselves. And that it's very important to be aware that personality and the individual side of you takes over, and that you're a construct and a sum of many different sources. Culture is a part of it, your education, your environment, your parents, but also who you surround yourself with, what you read, what you like doing, your passions. All of that will have an influence on who you are, and culture is very, very broad topic, including in the sense of corporate culture, which in and by itself has a very important element. The one thing I want to say, closing, I mean, close to closing, we're closing in 6 minutes, is the question of structure and freedom. I just wrote a brief article for a newspaper in France yesterday, which will come out next week, about structure and freedom. This is part of the Savoir Relier element, and understanding of how things work, creating a balance between the need for values and frameworks, so the need for structure and the necessary freedom that you need to have for yourself and give to others in order to build that balance, and work with the tensions that are between the two, is a great achievement for a leader. So you should thrive and work. You should work towards this balance between structure and freedom, and then if you do, you will certainly thrive. I would like to encourage you, moving towards our conclusion, to use the discussion forums on Coursera. Those are great tools to keep the dialogue open and to keep interacting from one another and learning from one another. The peer system, the peer review system, is also a learning curve, and it's not just a part of your assessment, but it's also a way of learning. And keep with that mindset. Keep building, keep growing, keep interacting in a positive way. I will make sure that there is a dynamic going beyond the capstone, through, first of all, the Facebook page post capstone, but also stay tuned with the savoirrelier.com, and we'll be in touch. Um, okay, we'll conclude on culture because there's one of you is getting back to this with the question of the British culture and the question of the Indian culture. If you're from the UK, can you survive in India? Well, I'll get back to what I said. You can survive anywhere if you're adaptable, and if you know where you can be yourself, be genuine. So be yourself in an environment. I'll give you a stupid, a silly example of um, one place where you may not feel at home. If the temperature is too high and you can't handle high temperatures, yeah, you might not be so happy in India. My landing in India for the first time, it was like something like 45 degrees Celsius. I love heat, and I felt like I was at home. So it really and so it worked with me, and it worked for me. So as I said, culture is a number of things. Climate can play a role. um, the way people interact, the pollution in China can be a problem for some, and people can love it in some. For there are so many elements that affect the way you will feel at home, that the very deep question is, who are you? How do you feel? What makes you be yourself and feel good with yourself? And then when you start hitting those questions, again, with your 4 layers of analysis, you and yourself, you and others, you and community, and you and society, you're doing your self-portrait again and again, and you keep growing. So keep at it. And to conclude on that, because it's the starting point and also the ongoing point of Savoir Relier, self-portrait is something that you can do over and over. So far, with the specialization you have had access to 16 questions, 2 times 8 questions with 2 self-portraits. There are many more questions that I have in stock, and that you will be able to get access to as time goes by. Okay, we're about to end this session. We have 1 more minute to go. I'll wait and be silent for like 15 seconds and see if there's one last question, and otherwise I will say goodbye in about 1 minute. Okay, in those 15 seconds of silence, I didn't see any new question come. I want to say bye and thank you again very much for your participation and your presence online. Good luck for those of you who are finishing the capstone in the next few weeks. And I look forward to being in touch with you and carry on. So bye-bye.